Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's class. Today's topic is broad spectrum antibiotics and sulfonamides. Broad spectrum antibiotics, why they are called as broad spectrum is because they act against a wide range of bacteria, like including gram positive, gram negative, and aerobic and anaerobic gram positive and negative bacteria also. So the drugs which comes under the broad spectrum antibiotics are tetracyclines and chloramphenicol. Here I would like to discuss a few lines about bacteriostatic and bactericidal because the drugs tetracyclines and chloramphenicol are bacteriostatic drugs. In bacteriostatic, what the drugs do is just they stop the synthesis of bacteria. It it is not killing the bacteria, it is just stopping the synthesis of more bacteria. Coming to bactericidal, it is killing the bacteria. Here, tetracyclines and chloramphenicol are just stopping the synthesis. It is not killing the bacteria. Coming to tetracyclines, these tetracyclines, as the name implicate, like the tetra means four cyclic anthracycline rings are there in these drugs, and these are bacteriostatic, as I already said. Coming to mechanism of action of these drugs enters the gram-positive bacteria by an energy-dependent active transport system. But in gram-negative bacteria, they are passively diffused into the bacteria. When after entering, what happens is after entering the cytoplasm of the bacteria, they bind to the 30S ribosomal unit. This ribosomes, like they help in the synthesis of the proteins for the bacterial DNA. So they bind to this 30S ribosomal unit and blocks the attachment of amino acyl tRNA to the A site. A site means acceptor site. We will see a diagram in the next slide so you can understand. Due to which it fails the peptide chain to grow. This is the diagram. This is the 30S ribosomal unit and this is the 50S ribosomal unit. Here, what normally should happen is this amino acid tRNA should be attached to this A site, acceptor site. But what happens is these tetracyclines will inhibit this attachment to here, due to which the synthesis of protein will not happen and due to which the bacterial synthesis will be stopped. Coming to antibacterial spectrum, what does it mean is how, like what organisms does this tetracycline act on? It acts on a wide range of aerobic and anaerobic gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria and also active against many spirochetes, including Borrelia recurrentis, Borrelia burgdorferi, Treponema pallidum, Treponema pertinum. And they are also effective against some other microorganisms like Rickettsia, Coxiella, Mycoplasma, Chlamydia, Legionella, Uroplasma, and some atypical mycobacteria and Plasmodium species also. These Plasmodium species, which are resistant to cell wall active antimicrobial agents, will be vulnerable to the tetracyclines. Now coming to the resistance, usually tetracyclines are, as they are broad spectrum antibiotics, they used to be used very widely, but now the resistance to that, the bacteria started having resisting this tetracycline action. How that resistance has started is due to decreased cell permeability of the drug. As we saw the mechanism of action, first the drug should uh, enter the bacteria cytoplasm, but what's happening is now the bacteria is like resisting and decreasing the cell permeability of the drug can't enter and increase the drug efflux from bacterial cell. Though the drug even entering the bacterial cell, it is again by getting flushed out. Drug efflux, it is getting pushed out of the bacterial cell. And third, ribosomal protection. Because the drug is acting on the 30S ribosomal unit, this ribosome is getting a protection from the bacteria, due to which there is resistance forming. And fourth point, enzymatic inactivation of the drug. though the drug entered the bacterial cell, in the cell, it is getting inactivated by the enzymes. Now coming to the classification, there are divided into 3 groups based on the time, like duration of action. Short acting means this plasma half-life is 6 to 10 hours. The drugs are tetracycline, fluorotetracycline, oxytetracycline. Intermediate acting plasma half-life is 12 to 13 hours. Demiclocycline, metacycline. Long acting 18 to 20 hours. Drugs are doxycycline and minocycline. Coming to pharmacokinetics of the tetracycline, they are variably absorbed from GIT, like not all drugs are rapidly absorbed, or like not all drugs takes a long time to absorb. They have different absorptions. And food retards absorption of a tetracycline except doxycycline and minocycline. Except these 2 tetracyclines, all other tetracyclines absorption is hindered by taking any food. And these drugs, after taken, are widely distributed throughout tissues except cerebrospinal fluid. But all of them can cross placental barrier. This is important because if they are crossing the placental barrier, if that lady, that pregnant lady, if she is taking the tetracyclines, it may affect the fetus. These drugs are metabolized in the liver and are concentrated in bile or excreted in urine. Clinical uses, it is a first line drug in these fevers, like in these kind of situations: Rocky Mountain spotted fever, typhus fever, psittacosis, granuloma inguinale, pneumonia, non-specific urethritis, Lyme disease, relapsing fever. In these, it is a first line of drug and also can be used in brucellosis, tularemia, and plague, and in bacteremia and abscesses, trachoma, inclusion conjunctivitis, non-specific arthritis, abdominal or thoracic lesions is also can be used. Other conditions, in amoebiasis, it is used along with the metronidazole. And in malaria, it can be used with quinine or with sulfadoxine plus pyrimethamine combination. In acne also it can be used. In peptic ulcer due to H. pylori, it is used as a adjuvant drug. Like adjuvant drug means it is not the main drug. Some other drug is being used for which like it is just an adjuvant, added drug. Recommended doses: tetracycline and oxytetracycline 250 mg 6 hourly, approximately 4 times a day. And demiclocycline 300 mg 12 hourly. Doxycycline 100 mg 12th hourly first day, then 100 mg daily. Minocycline 100 mg 12 hourly. Except demiclocycline and methacycline, all others can be given both orally and intravenously. This demiclocycline and metacycline should be given only orally. Coming to adverse drug effects of the tetracyclines, nausea, vomiting, epigastric pain, and stomatitis can occur. And fungal esophagitis, enterocolitis, because tetracyclines can act on the normal healthy gut bacteria also. Because of what happens, the healthy bacteria will also die, and there can be any superimposed infections can happen, can cause any enterocolitis or any fungal esophagitis with candida albicans, etc. Staining of teeth and retardation of the bone growth on like long duration. If the drugs are taken for a longer time of period, it may stain the teeth and retard the bone growth. And hepatotoxicity, because the drug is getting metabolized in the liver, exceeded amounts of drug can cause hepatotoxicity and also can cause renal toxicity. And when that drug is given through IV, it might cause phlebitis, so care should be taken. And it causes pulmonary eosinophilic syndrome. Coming to glycyclines, these are also a type of tetracyclines. These are recently approved. Tegalcycline is a drug. This is a minocycline analog. It is 20-fold more potent than tetracycline. It is active against a wide range of bacteria. It is eliminated through bile. Nausea, vomiting is a major side effect of this drug. It is administered intravenously as 100 mg loading dose. Loading dose means the starting dose. First dose will be 100 mg followed by 50 mg intravenously for 12 hours. Next, chloramphenicol. This chloramphenicol contains nitro group as nitrobenzene moiety. This is the specified characteristic of chloramphenicol. Nitro group as nitrobenzene moiety. And mode of action is, here it inhibits bacterial synthesis by binding to 50S ribosomal unit. In tetracycline, it is binding to 30S ribosomal unit. Here, chloramphenicol is binding to 50S ribosomal unit. And bacteriostatic to most pathogens, as we already talked about it earlier, but it is bactericidal to Haemophilus influenza. And it is active against a wide range of gram-negative, gram-positive organisms and some spirochetes also. Here, the resistance to this drug is developed by ribosomal protection. Since it is acting on the 50S ribosome, the bacteria can protect the ribosome and decrease the affinity of drug to the ribosome. Therefore, the drug can be unable to act on the synthesis of the bacterial proteins. Decreased permeability of the drug and production of plasmid as well as chromosomal mediated chloramphenicol acetyl transferase. This enzyme, chloramphenicol acetyl transferase, it metabolizes the chloramphenicol to its inactive form. Means it is not in an active form to act on the bacterial ribosomes. Coming to pharmacokinetics of the chloramphenicol, after oral administration, it is rapidly and completely absorbed, and it can be administered either orally or intravenously. It is widely distributed in body compartments, including the cerebrospinal fluid. In tetracyclines, we saw it is not distributed into cerebrospinal fluid, but here chloramphenicol is also getting distributed into cerebrospinal fluid. It is metabolized in liver by glucuronyl conjugation and excreted in urine. Its plasma half-life is 3 to 5 hours. Clinical uses of the drug are like, since as we saw, it is getting distributed in CSF also. Effective cerebrospinal fluid levels are obtained. It is a preferred treatment for meningitis. And also it is used, it is like chloramphenicol first, it used to be the drug of choice for typhoid fever. But nowadays it is not being used, the ciprofloxacin is being used. Now, when it was used as a drug of choice for typhoid, the dose 500 milligrams 4 times a day for 3 to 4 days is given. Thereafter, 250 mg 4 times a day for another 7 days for any gastrointestinal lesions still are present in the patient. And it can chloramphenicol can also be used in serious anaerobic infections and conjunctivitis and external ear infections. Coming to adverse drug reactions, this chloramphenicol can cause dose-related bone marrow depression. Bone marrow depression can lead to all the cells which are being produced from the bone marrow, right? Like that RBC, WBC, etc. So what happens? Dose-related bone marrow depression, you can see there is anemia, leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, like that. And usually, frequently, when the dose exceeds 3 to 4 grams per day for 1 to 2 weeks, this dose-related bone marrow depression happens. And non-dose related or idiosyncratic aplastic anemia also can happen. Idiosyncratic means like it doesn't have a particular reason. And it can also cause gray baby syndrome when given to neonates. In gray baby syndrome, what happens is, to that baby, abdominal distension happens and progressive cyanosis. This is why it is called gray baby. This gray, that color changes his body color changes, and hypothermia, temperature decreases a lot, and then vomiting, loss of hunger, and it can like if he is not observed, it can lead to cardiovascular collapse and death also. And this can also this because it can kill the healthy bacteria and body, it can also cause super infections. That is all about chloramphenicol. Now coming to sulfonamides. Sulfonamides are structural analogs of p-amino benzoic acid. These are synthetic derivatives, so they are also called as antibacterial agents or synthetic antimicrobials. These are synthetic, means they are produced, they are not naturally derived, they are synthetically produced. Mechanism of action: these are competitive inhibitors of dihydropteroid synthase, which can also be called as folic acid synthase, the bacterial enzyme responsible for the incorporation of p-amino benzoic acid into dihydropteroic acid, the immediate precursor of folic acid. In this diagram, you can see this is the p-amino benzoic acid. From this, dihydrofolic acid will be derived. From there, tetrahydrofolic acid. From it, purines and DNA. So here the sulfonamides is acting on this enzyme. Usually, like human beings takes folic acid from the diet itself. So the sulfonamides acts on the bacteria. It will not be there will not be any effect on the human beings, because we are taking the folic acid directly. So there will be no problem for us. Coming to another drug, trimethoprim. This is a structural analog of the pteridine portion of dihydrofolic acid. It has much higher affinity towards bacterial dihydrofolate reductase compared to protozoa. Here in this diagram, if you observe, you can see this trimethoprim is acting on the dihydrofolate reductase. That is on the second step. Here it is acting. So it can have a little effect on our mammal DNA also. We are mammals, right? In mammal DNA also. So this pyrimethamine, another drug, it also blocks the same dihydrofolate reductase like trimethoprim, but it has more affinity towards the mammalian dihydrofolate reductase, means mammals as. So that human being dihydrofolate reductase also being affected by this pyrimethamine. So when you give pyrimethamine to a patient, we should also give folinic acid so that there will not be any deficiency. Coming to classification, it is classified into orally absorbable agents, orally non-absorbable agents, topical agents. Coming to orally absorbable agents, again short acting, intermediate acting, and long acting. As you can see, short acting sulfacytine, sulfasoxazole, sulfadiazine, sulfametazole. Intermediate acting sulfamethoxazole, sulfamoxazole. Long acting sulfadoxine. Orally non-absorbable agents sulfasalazine, all-salazine, valsalazine. And topical agents silver sulfadiazine, mefenide, and sulfacetamide. Coming to synergistic combinations, synergistic combinations is like these both drugs, two drugs combined gives an additive effect. So here what is happening is cotrimoxazole. This drug contains 400 milligrams of sulfamethoxazole plus 8 milligrams of trimethoprim. This can act as a bactericidal drug. And you should remember the ratio of the drug mixing. It is 5:1. See 400 mg, 80 mg. 5:1 ratio. And it normally it is also these two when mixed they are bactericidal. And you saw already like the mechanism of action. Sulfamethoxazole, where it is acting is on dihydropteroid synthetase. and in the trimethoprim is acting on the second step on dihydrofolate reductase. So both combined when given, they are bactericidal. Coming to second synergistic combination, sulfadoxine plus pyrimethamine, 500 mg of sulfadoxine, 25 mg of pyrimethamine. This is a clinical cure for chloroquine resistant Plasmodium falciparum. Now resistance is caused by this drug also is getting resistance from the bacteria. This what does this resistance means is that bacteria is fighting against the drugs given. What are the causes? Overproduction of p-aminobenzoic acid. So that like even though the drug acts on certain part of enzyme, it is keep on producing the PABA in to like compensate. And alteration in nature of dihydroteroic acid synthetic enzyme. This enzyme nature, if it is altered, the drug obviously will not be detecting the enzyme and will not be acting on it. And loss of permeability of sulfonamides. It is not letting the sulfonamide enter into the cell itself. And appearance of alternate pathway for PABA synthesis. So this entire pathway, if gets bypassed, yeah, obviously the drugs cannot be recognized. Coming to pharmacokinetics, these are well absorbed when given orally and never administered subcutaneously or intramuscularly because these are alkaline forms. So they will cause a very much pain. So you should not administer them subcutaneously or intramuscularly. And sodium salts of sulfonamides in 5% dextrose can be given intravenously, but except for cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole should not be given with that 5% dextrose in IV. And these drugs are, when given, they are widely distributed and crosses blood-brain barrier and placental barrier also. Metabolized as acetylated conjugates in the liver. Clinical uses, these orally absorbed sulfonamides, these can be used in acute uncomplicated urinary tract infections. Cotrimoxazole, urinary tract infections caused by E. coli and Proteus mirabilis also. Here orally absorbable can act on urinary tract infections caused by E. coli. And cotrimoxazole can also be used in prostatitis, respiratory tract infections, typhoid, and bacterial diarrheas and dysentery caused by these organisms, Shigella, Yersinia enterocolitica, E. coli, and Vibrio cholera. It can also be used in nocardiosis and in sexually transmitted diseases like chancroid, non-specific erythritis, lymphogranuloma, etc. also can be used, and it can be used in pneumonia and melioidosis. Oral sulfonamide plus pyrimethamine, sulfadoxine actually, it can be given in chloroquine resistant Plasmodium falciparum and toxoplasmosis. Oral non-absorbable sulfonamides, the drug is sulfasalazine. It is given in ulcerative colitis and also rheumatoid arthritis. Topical agents means these can be applied either on eye or like on skin, etc. Sodium sulfacetamide, it is used in chlamydia trachomatis. It is applied on the eye. It is an infection of the eye, chlamydia trachomatis. Say silver sulfadiazine. This is an organism causes trachoma. Silver sulfadiazine used in prevention of infections in burns cases. As we know, in burns cases, the tissues are being exposed to the outer surrounding, due to which it can attract any gram-positive or gram-negative bacteria. So silver sulfadiazine helps in prevention of the infections. And mefenide also used in the burns cases. Coming to adverse drug effects of sulfonamides, it can cause crystalluria and renal toxicity because the elimination is through renal system. And hypersensitivity reactions like rashes, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, eosinophilia, drug fever can happen The Stevens-Johnson syndrome is an medical emergency. It should be taken seriously. And kernicterus in neonates, this is a kind of encephalopathy. Since sulfonamides are crossing this blood-brain barrier, it can cause a serious encephalopathy in neonates. And other adverse drug reactions, it can also cause hemolytic anemia. Now coming to nursing implications, what should you nurses should see for, like what should you do during this treatment with antibiotics, that broad spectrum antibiotics and sulfonamides. Monitor for vital signs. Whatever drugs are giving, we saw many adverse drug reactions and we saw the pharmacokinetics. We also saw how to give orally or intravenously. We should after giving a drug, we should see the vital signs of that patient. How is he? Is he having any hypersensitivity reaction, or is he fine with the drug? Like that, you should observe for vital signs and also monitor for hepatic and renal toxicity, because many drugs are being metabolized by liver or and eliminated by the kidneys. You should observe the parameters and see that the patient takes more water in case of the drugs which need excretion through uh, kidney, so that it can avoid any complications. You should observe for any dermatological effects caused by the drug, any development of super infections, because most of the time these are killing the gut bacteria also, they can cause super infections. And significant any gastrointestinal effects like nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain or cramping. And signs and symptoms of blood dyscrasias. Blood dyscrasias means anemia, or like aplastic anemia, any thrombocytopenia, etc. These are called blood dyscrasias. As we saw, like, there is a bone marrow depression which can cause this. When we are giving drugs, we should observe if there are any signs and symptoms of blood dyscrasias. Then assess for the possibility of pregnancy or breastfeeding in patients if it's prescribing tetracycline antibiotics. Why? Because tetracycline is crossing the placental barrier, and it is very toxic for the fetus. It is a teratogenic drug. So we should see the patient if she is pregnant or breastfeeding, and continue assessments for the therapeutic effects. Means like if after giving the drug, you should observe like if there is diminished fever, pain, or signs and symptoms of infection, because they should begin after taking the first dose. Like the patient should improve. You should observe that if they are improving or not, and also take precaution as to what route are you giving the drug by, because as we said, we saw some drugs should not be given subcutaneously or intramuscularly, and some drugs should not be given intravenously. So these you should keep in your mind, and you should take precaution when you are giving the drug. So this is the end of our topic. Hope you understood. If you have any doubts, comment down below the video. Thank you.